If you are currently frustrated with your health or are dealing with any sort of health issues, or you simply want to take your health to new levels and need the inspiration and motivation to do that, we are launching the Extreme Health Academy very, very soon. We partnered up. I'm finally able to say this with a good friend of ours, Dr. John Bergman, and we are going to be offering monthly Q&As where you're going to get access to ask questions to different doctors as well as Dr. Bergman. We're going to be offering group cleanses every single season, as well as having monthly courses on all the different organ systems of your body and different health challenges you may be dealing with. We're going to have a bunch of quick wins in there, tons of member perks, health resources, an online community, and all kinds of really, really great stuff in the Extreme Health Academy. So if you are currently wanting to take your health to the next level and get access to all of this exclusive practical information that's going to be very inspirational and motivational, go to extremehealthacademy.com, or you can go to it from this show page, which is extremehealthradio.com/545. Happy Monday morning to all of you out there. I hope you guys are having a great, great day, whatever you're doing, and I hope you're enjoying your week, your life, whatever day you're listening to this. Just for reference, today is going to be episode 545, so if you guys want to check out the show notes, or if you want to check out any of the links, the sponsors, whatever, different things we talk about, I'll try to put as much as I possibly can in the show notes for this particular show. So if you want to grab any of those links, they will be at extremehealthradio.com/545. I just got done with a walk with our puppies, and I'm feeling good. The weather's great. Great fall. It's coming into fall. Great fall weather here. So I'm really excited about today. We're going to be talking with Atom Bergstrom, routine guest. Love him. He's been on so many different times, and he's often been called the most interesting guest that we have. He's so interesting, I tell you. Where he gets his information is is beyond me, but he is just a fun guy, great information, unique information, and he's been teaching workshops and seminars. In case you don't know, let's just read a little short bit of his bio from 1977, since 1977, I should say, and he's got over 50 years of experience in health and nutrition. He's been counseling people with various diseases and ailments all the way since back in the 70s. So he's an expert in nutrition, chronobiology, reflexology, iridology, meditation, I Ching, other holistic modalities. So let me go ahead and turn his microphone up. And Adam, how are you doing today, my friend? Whoops. Adam, okay, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Oh my goodness, I have no idea what happened. Yep, you came in great.
Oh, I'm here now. Okay. Okay, great.
I tell you, I was just explaining to people, it's so crazy. We've been having such crazy issues with Skype lately. I'm not sure. Have you had the same on your end?
You know, every once in a while, they've done some really stupid things. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's
usually it's clear. I do a regular show elsewhere on a weekly basis, a small show, and I have never had any problem with them. But every once in a while, talking to someone else, it goes a little bit loony.
I know, it's a bit crazy. Yeah. So you sent me an email a little while ago of about sitting and standing that I thought was really interesting. And I'm glad you sent it to me because we reached out to the lady to be on the show, and she's going to be on after you. But yeah, I thought that was a fascinating interview or a YouTube presentation that you sent me.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, an interesting lady. Gravity's an interesting thing. I've been dealing with it a long time. Done gravity work, where you get on the tilt board and lean over for 45 minutes. I used to do it every 2 hours for 20 minutes. And
really? Wow, every 2 hours. So you'd hang upside down for 20 minutes, and then you do that every 2 hours.
Yep.
Wow,
different than the bat shoes can get you in trouble. I actually ended up with eye problems, even though Swami Nitty Gritty warned me about it by I used to go on those bat shoes at the gym, and I'd fall asleep for a half hour hanging upside down like a bat.
How did you do that? Because when I do that, I feel all the blood rushing to my head, and it just doesn't seem like something that's comfortable.
Yep. That's why I prefer a 45-degree angle. It's better.
Yeah.
Puts blood in the head. If you notice in iridology or iris analysis, people tend to get an arcus senilis on the top of their brain, in the brain area. And that's because they don't do enough upside-down work. That wouldn't happen otherwise. It's like churning the butter.
So when you do upside-down work, I've heard David Wolf talk a lot about gravity and taking substances like Ormus and taking these these levitational, foods that have levitational properties in them. And that's the idea of getting your heart below your hips or above your hips in order to get some sort of inversion going, right?
Well, it depends. Your levitational foods are your morning foods. They grow on trees. They're striving for the heavens. They actually call that heliotropic. They seek the sun. Geotropic foods are your root foods. So if you eat those, you're going to be grounded. You can't get grounded on a tree food.
That's true. Yeah, not so much.
Then your midday foods, which come from bushes and vines, are actually curlicued. That's when you go around in a spiral. You'll notice all vines tend to do that. If you look at iridology, you'll clearly see that the top of the iris actually represents your brain and your tree foods. The bottom is your genitals and your liver and all of that. And in the middle, your intestinal tract goes around in a spiral right in the middle of that.
So the foods that spiral would be probably good for your intestines, I would imagine?
Very good for your intestines, yes. The tomato's excellent for your intestines, particularly at small intestine time, with the Chinese designated centuries ago between 1 and 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, wow. So do we know if these foods that spiral, are they good for the DNA because the DNA, spirals like that?
You bet. Now, the trick is if you, the foods that are acid spiral, wind up the DNA, and the foods that are alkaline do the opposite. I just finished a new book, almost ready for sale, maybe today or tomorrow, Circadian Quantum Force Alchemy from A to Z.
Oh, wow.
Which is basically a dictionary of timing, alchemy, and quantum force has a twin that goes with it called electrostatic force. So I mentioned that that's kind of a doppelganger that goes with that force. We are made out of two forces in the universe, yin and yang, and often people forget about that. They always go to one side and forget the other side.
So what are the two forces again?
Actually, it's sort of quantum force and electrostatic force. The electrostatic force is what actually breaks us apart, makes us a puddle. And the quantum force is the one that organizes us and makes like a table. We're in between. We're a colloid, which is structured water, something science denies. In other words, to show we're structured water, if you take a sausage, it's 80% water, but no matter how hard you try, you can't squeeze that 80% water out of there because it's structured. If it wasn't, you would squeeze it out like a balloon. But of course, we're taught from every place from grammar school that we are a cell in 80% water with membranes, and of course there's no such thing as a membrane, as the structured water people like Gerald Pollack and Gilbert Ling and others have pointed out.
So they say there's no such thing as like a cell membrane? Is that what they're saying?
There is none. If you believe in structured water, you can't believe in a membrane. We don't have balloons in us with little things floating around in a bag of water. Otherwise, you could squeeze a sausage out or a carrot. You can't even do it with a carrot. A carrot is 97% water.
Yeah, this is fascinating to me because it sounds like very similar to the work of. I mean, it's similar in a sense to the work of, I think it's Dr. Robert Cowan, and you talk about this too, that the heart is not a pump. So when you're looking at a cell under a microscope, I'm trying to go back to my memory. Does it look like there's a membrane on it, or is it just like an electrical difference, a pH difference or something between the inside and the outside of the cell?
It's only a pH difference. They use artifacts to illustrate their points that aren't there. They use chemicals to illustrate it, and that's been done by other scientists to prove that what we're taught in school, the picture of the standard sodium pump and potassium pump. There are no pumps. There's no such thing as pumps. And yet, we're taught from grammar school, every doctor is taught in medical school, every medical textbook, and there's no such thing. And Thomas Cowan, yes, he talks about structured water, but he's incorrect about the fact that the heart is not a pump because of structured water. It has very little to do with that, but there is structured water, and the heart is not a pump, except as a backup pump or a auxiliary pump, a ram pump for the circulation. The lungs and our nose are the pump.
Yeah, you know what? I read that years ago in a book. It was really interesting by that guy. I'm trying to think of his name. He was the guy in the early 1900s, and he wrote about the mucusless diet and stuff. Do you know who that guy is?
I forgot his name. Arnold Ehret, perhaps?
Arnold Ehret, yeah. And he mentioned the same thing. I remember where I was when I was reading that back in, I don't know, the late 90s or something. And he talked the same thing about how the lung is more of a pump than the heart. And I just thought, this guy's crazy. What's this about? But yeah, That's what you're saying too.
Oh, yeah. I wrote a book about it, in fact, called The Heart is Not a Pump. Available on our website, solartiming.com.
Yeah, that's so crazy. So,
and goes beyond. See, Thomas Cowan follows the work of Rudolf Steiner, and Steiner didn't invent the concept. I don't even know if Steiner knew that Rotermann. He either took the information from Rotermann without giving him credit, but Rotermann was the first person to write about it, though I found books about it back at the time of the Civil War. Now, thanks to the internet, we can go back and seek these things out. It's like the Akashic record.
Right. So what is the heart doing if it's not pumping?
It's a carburetor. We need a carburetor in your car, too.
So it's not actually
I don't see any
pumping.
cars without carburetors.
So the blood's going through the heart, but it's not really pumping. Is that correct?
Yeah, carburetor's necessary for your car still. It's not like it's not necessary. Though there has been a case of one man whose pump was online, and he was still walking around great.
Oh, wow.
Of course, Cowan has correctly pointed out that when people go to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, my God, it's only 3% clearance, yet they just walked up the hill before they went to the doctor. They were short of breath, but with 3%, it'd be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So obviously, auxiliary, what do you call it, highways are going on, actual highways where you have angiogenesis around the heart, and the heart is working fine offline.
That's so fascinating. Yeah, I was listening to a doctor, I forget who it was, I think it was a YouTube talk a while back, and he was talking about how, just kind of, going off your point here, but he was talking about how they've closed off all of the main arteries going to the heart, all of them. They've shut them down 100%, and it might have been the mice. I think the mice still lived, and so he was saying that something else is going on. It's not the blockage of the artery. Something else is happening here when people dying of heart attacks. But it's so easy to just sort of say it's the closed off arteries and those types of things.
Everybody dies of heart failure, but not everybody dies of a heart attack. And also, I mean, look at us. Say you're 6 foot tall and you're pumping blood. A sequoia tree could be as much as 333 feet high, and yet it doesn't have a heart. How does it get the sap all the way to the top of the tree and down again and have perfect circulation?
And all of the nutrients to all the leaves. And I mean, it's crazy, right?
You bet. So we have that ability too. We just don't realize it. The heart is important. It is a carburetor. It's necessary for a moving creature. A tree doesn't have to move around, but still, that's a lot of gravity to overcome. They have these laws of 33 feet, et cetera, et cetera. If you study hydraulics, that mean that it should be impossible for a tree to lift that water up.
Yeah, I heard David Wolf talking about this once, and he was talking about the levitative property of Ormus and the spiral action that the trees are using some sort of implosion technology to get sap. I mean, it's not like the tree's pumping, it's so thick, I mean, it's amazing.
No implosion in a tree. In a mushroom, though, a mushroom works by implosion. That's why it can come through a driveway overnight.
Oh, that's right.
Look how soft it is, and yet it comes right through a driveway. And that's implosion technology. Implosion technology is when you're at the beach and you see a pier and you have a freeze, and the frozen ice lifts the pier right off out of the sea. That's implosion technology. But implosion technology is not what a tree uses.
Interesting. So that implosion technology is probably, are we using that in our bodies? Okay.
Yes, we do. Nighttime, it's called the penis. It's called the vagina. It's called the uterus. Our sexual system is implosion technology. Notice how closely a penis resembles a mushroom. It also resembles an atomic bomb, because an atomic bomb, that's implosion technology, and it's actually coming from the bottom chakras. You know, in sun sink eating, we eat the tree foods in the morning, the vine foods in the middle of the day, and the root foods at night. And that way we balance our body on a daily 24-hour cycle and balance those forces in their correct order.
So what are some...
As we were created on this earth in that kind of form, where the trees basically eat the light first, the vines get it secondly, and the roots get the leftover infrared radiation.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I've sort of gravitated towards that over the years, and listening to you and doing a lot of your stuff. It's made a huge difference, and it's so natural to me to do that, because it's so simple to remember, for one, but also it just makes a lot of sense, and I feel better when I eat in alignment with the day and the time and all that stuff. It's pretty
much less warehousing, because otherwise we warehouse our food. We just assume when we put it in our mouth it's going to be utilized right away. It may be digested right away, but utilization, metabolism, and elimination, those are different things.
Yeah, assimilation, utilization, and what was the third one?
Metabolism and elimination. Because if a person isn't going to the bathroom 3 times a day, then something's wrong. You see an animal in the wild, they may go 7 or 8 times, and human beings are told, oh, it's okay if you only go 1 time, or even 1 time every 2 days.
Yeah, I had a friend back, years ago that would go once a week, if maybe once a week, sometimes longer. I mean, it's crazy.
We had a lady in our book, Yes, No, Maybe, that we were on a houseboat together when I first introduced my co-author and her husband to sun sink eating, and there was someone there who had only went to the bathroom once a week. Well, everybody on the boat in Lake Powell decided they were going to do the experiment and go and eat on time. And she started going to the bathroom regularly. Now, at first, my author said, well, maybe it was the first time she had to go to the bathroom. My co-author thought, well, maybe it's her day of the week to go. But then she went again and again and again. And everything worked out fine. And my co-author, by the way, went from 1 bowel movement every 3 days to 3 bowel movements a day.
Yeah, it's fascinating, because human beings are so wired to be in connection, in cyclical connection, aren't we? Like, it's seasons and time of day, and we're just meant to have a schedule, a clock to stick to, it seems like.
Religion comes from religiar, to bound back to the environment. And once we get back to the environment, which of course, thanks to the electric light and blue lights and everything else, we're quite a bit distant from the environment these days.
So do you think that the further we disconnect from nature and the natural environment, not the artificial environment that we live in, do you think the further we disconnected from that, all manner of health issues start to happen?
Lots more. We have lots more now. And the people in Silicon Valley who think there's going to be a singularity, well, it's not going to happen, because they're divorcing us from the environment instead of bringing us back, and they think they can be independent of it. Well, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and it seems like the further we get from nature and the natural environment, not just do we have health issues and health concerns, because you think about a time when you're outside all day long when you're a kid, and as you get older, most people spend more and more time inside, disconnected, and that's when health conditions start to come up. But I think it also has an effect not just on your physical body, but probably on your spiritual growth, on the evolution of your personal development, on your mindset, on your mood, emotions, and knowledge, and probably has a much deeper impact than we even know, doesn't it?
Sunlight detoxifies cholesterol, for instance. It's not just that we get vitamin D from the sun. See, when you buy vitamin D in a capsule, you're getting one frequency because it's cheaper to make it from one frequency. But actually, there's multiple frequencies of vitamin D that you get from nature that you don't get elsewhere. Or the particular food that you eat absorbs the vitamin E in various frequencies. So you get like a symphony of D. You don't get one note, one Johnny flat note going, right. When people take vitamin D, that's why I know people have taken 50,000 international units, and it doesn't raise their level at all.
Wow. Now, where else would they get vitamin D in nature, do you think?
Sunshine.
Sunshine?
And also, the other way to do it is just put your food out in the sun. 20 minutes and it's ready to go. You get all the vitamin D you want.
That's an interesting idea. I never thought. I've heard of people, charging crystals and putting, drinking moon water and stuff like that. But putting your food in the sun, that would be an interesting thing.
Yep. You can't put it in glass. You can't put it in plastic. Saran wrap will work if you want to keep the flies off it. Saran wrap will pass the frequencies that do D. You can't do it in a car through a car window or things like that.
I've heard car windows.
But D is very important. When the Italians first moved to New York, it was one-story town, and so they dried their spaghetti on clotheslines, basically. Well, when they got into apartments and 3-story, even 4-story buildings they lived in, they would hang them on the balconies, so they passed an ordinance against drying their spaghetti in the sun, and they all started getting vitamin D deficiencies and being ill until someone realized it was the spaghetti that wasn't in the sun that was causing the problem. So spaghetti, anything, any kind of food basically will absorb vitamin D. If you want to absorb a vegetarian form of D, that's D2. You put a vegetable out there. If you want to put butter out there and get a D3, then you put butter out there. And when you buy it in a pill, it used to be called Toxicon, but you can't market vitamin D under that name, so better to call it Calcification and other names.
That's funny.
Toxicologist does not sell. People don't seem to like that name.
People don't like that. I was wondering, do you think it would be or have an adverse connection to the food? You know how people put those things over food? It's like a little metal mesh screen to keep the flies off. Do you think that would disturb any of the electric fields or anything around the food if you put that outside?
Depends on the metal. It would have a minor effect, but it could, aluminum and things like that. Aluminum does have certain charges, electrostatic charges that activate it, and magnets can have an effect, positive or negative. But the most important thing is when we put a piece of glass or piece of plastic over the food, then it basically neutralizes it. Sunlight is it kills bacteria, it kills viruses. But once you go through a window, you can't do it. They now know you can get plenty of vitamin D by sitting in the shade because ultraviolet light is refractive. It bounces, not like red light, which goes straight line only. All of the colors slightly start to go off center. That makes a rainbow, and ultimately we get clear light and we get vitamin D from sitting in the shade. You can get 50% of the vitamin D you do in direct sunlight, so if people don't want to get a sunburn or anything, they'll get it there. But if you go in your car and think you're going to get it through the glass, 0 vitamin D. Those tests have been validated recently again, though they were done a long time ago too.
Yeah, I was reading something recently about exactly that, and they were talking about the glass in cars, and they were saying that the glass somehow blocks some of the frequencies and some of the spectrums of UV light, and what happens is that it blocks apparently the good frequencies that protect against skin cancer, but it lets all the other ones through. And so they're saying that it's actually dangerous to let light come through a window in your car and touch your skin, and I thought that was really interesting.
It is. Other foods like St. John's wort and buckwheat, when people eat those, they tend to get sensitized to the color yellow, so they can get a sunburn in the car after eating buckwheat. That's why so many people that went to those fat farms, and used buckwheat sprouts ended up with terrible skin conditions.
Wow. So what happened to them?
What happened to them? They stopped taking it. It was people who realized that a lot of people still have those skin conditions and are eating buckwheat sprouts thinking they're healthy for them. Tiny bit of buckwheat and the buckwheat flour is okay. And eating it in the middle of the day But the yellow frequency can do damage too, just like ultraviolet can. Any of the colors has power to help absorb the food, and they all have times a day. Like your red is most active from 6 in the morning to 9, your orange from 9 to noon, your yellow from noon to 3, your green from 3 to 6, blue from 6 to 9, indigo from 9 to 12, and from 12 to 3 is going to be violet. And you'll notice that in your atomic period of the elements, all of those colors have Fraunhofer lines that synchronize with those particular time, which is why you would take a potassium food in the morning.
Now, the color order that you just said seems to go against the nature, because wouldn't it be better to have red or orange in the later part of the day?
Nope, because red is what you're rejecting. So you want to take a red food because then you get the violet energy. See, if you look at a color, what you're seeing is what it won't absorb. All trees and all green plants will not absorb green. So you're seeing what they can't use, not what they can use.
Okay, so it's the law of opposites then, I see.
That's right. So I know who you're talking about, Gabriel Cousins. He's got it wrong. He got it backwards.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Diet.
Yeah, so... Okay, so you want to do the opposite. So in the morning, you said from like 6 to 9 would be the time for red.
You raise up the frequency, because what is the opposite of red? It's green. And you actually start with white. White is from 3 to 6 in the morning. White is the culmination of all colors in an additive color system.
Now, is the sunshine, that's mostly like a gold yellow, right? Or is that... in terms of...
Yes, no, maybe it depends. Our atmosphere determines a lot of that and the refraction of it. Okay. Sun is actually a blue star, but we see it as yellow because of the way we see it through the atmosphere. And, of course, that has an effect on our health. Why yellow is one of the most important colors, but it is also the easiest color to get cancer. I've written a lot about yellow fat disease, and most people age from yellowing. It's like linoleum, like flax. Flax is what they make linoleum out, and linoleum will yellow under sunlight. Human beings do the same thing. A century ago, during the Civil War, they knew all about waxy liver disease. Now they tell you about fatty liver disease, and they tell you about cirrhosis, but the main thing people die from is waxy liver disease, waxy kidney disease, waxy, all of these diseases. Let me put it this way. If you have an age spot, think of it as an omega-3 barcode. And for every age spot you have in your skin, you have from 10,000 to 100,000 age spots inside the body, and they clump together and sclerose and fibrose, and that's what aging is. Basically, lipofuscin or lipofuscinosis or pan-steatitis, whatever you want to call it. That's what aging is.
Yeah, there was a doctor on our show a while back, years ago, that was talking about exactly that. He was saying that all mammals basically succumb to fibrosis. That's really the only disease that kills people, because every other disease, he was saying, with glaucoma or arthritis or cancer, these are just different forms and expressions of fibrosis, which is the same thing you're saying.
DHA, that's the killer. The very thing they tell us grows our brain, shrinks our heart, and makes us into, well, look at the crocodiles, what's happening in Africa. They're all fibrosing, turning bright yellow. They can't even do autopsies on them because all the organs have melded together. And in autopsies today, they don't tell you that for all the CAT scans, PET scans, MRIs, and everything, they don't show you what happens to the body when it fibroses like that, all because of DHA, ALA, basically the omega-3 fatty acids. So you can't get an age spot without an omega-3 fatty acid. It's impossible. Well, you won't say it's impossible. It's improbable.
You mean in omega-3 fatty acid deficiency?
No, the other way around. It's a poison, and they have got us bamboozled into thinking that they're essential fatty acids. Of course they're not. DHA is the greatest killer on earth. Now, here's the thing. If you go on the internet, I guarantee you can go through 4 or 5 pages and not find a negative thing about DHA, EPA, or ALA. You'll find nothing but positive things. And this is because NASA is financing the space program with DHA. But the reason that you see that is because they're trying to sell the product. Now, let's flip the script. Let's put in yellow fat disease. Cats, yellow fat disease. Crocodiles, yellow fat disease. Minks, yellow fat disease. Dogs. And it'll open up a Pandora's box and see, well, I wrote 3 books on this subject in 6 months because it was so easy to find the dirt on DHA, EPA, and ALA.
So these are forms of fibrosis? I'm sorry, not DHA and all that, but just yellow fat disease.
They cause it. Yeah, they cause it. You cannot have any kind of fibrosis or sclerosis basically without an omega-3 fatty acid. And they get the good things. Now, you had a guest one time that went partway. He knew about the fish oils, but he didn't know about the flaxseed oil, the chia oil, and those oils.
What do you mean? Yeah, I think that was Professor Brian Peskin, for those that are interested.
Well, Tim, it's interesting that Peskin means fish.
That's true. Pescado, right?
The universe has a sense of humor.
That is so fast. I never thought of that. That's so funny. That's funny. Yeah. So what do you mean by he didn't know about chia seed oil and things like that? What do you mean by that?
Well, he didn't know. He thinks those are okay, that ALA is okay, but and that DHA and ALA, I mean EPA are the problems. Oh. But all of those oils, they're so volatile, they break down in your body. No matter how fresh you have it, if you have a fresh oil right out of the bottle and you put it in your body and it's stored there for months, for instance, take flaxseed oil, put it on your counter, leave it there at room temperature. But imagine it being stored in your body, because your body does not like those type of fatty acids. It burns saturated fat when it goes into ketosis, and it only burns the other when it's desperate. So what does it do? It stores it, and it stores more of it and more of it, and then we get lipofuscin and steroid and amyloid, all plaques, all of our Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, dementias galore. I mean, we're losing our brain at a time when our grandfathers and grandparents are living longer than our mid-range people.
I know.
And the kids are going to be even shorter.
Yeah. So what are some examples of good and bad oils?
A good oil is butter. A good oil is coconut oil. Palm oil, okay, but you can get a defense response against some of the things in palm oil. Okay. And, of course, they want to sell us the palm oil because it's cheaper for them to produce. Mm-hmm. But with fatty acids like butter, the fat in meat, you're pretty well safe. Once you go into the others, I eat foods, like I'll have 1 walnut a day, even with the omega-3, because I'm eating it for other things in it that are necessary, for instance, an almond. It's like if I buy a property that has mosquitoes in, and it's a beautiful piece of property, I'll tolerate the mosquitoes, but I won't cultivate the mosquitoes. I'm not going to go out there and smear, wear the color yellow and smear an oil that attracts them so they can bite me. And that's what people do when they buy fish oils and cod liver oil. It was known back at the time of the Civil War that cod liver oil was basically caused a waxy liver disease or yellow fat disease. They didn't call it the same thing. They didn't know it was coming from DHA and EPA. They didn't know that till 1928 when a married couple found it, and they worked for the fish oil companies who were switching over to petroleum products from fish products, and so they needed a gig. And now the fish oil business in this country is going to reach $1 billion in a few years. Wow. $1 billion a year. So and it's all based on a misconception, selling a poison to people. Now, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. You're not going to eat DHA and drop over dead. But people don't notice. A year off of here, 5 years off of here, a few months off of here. It all adds up.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because like you said, DHA, I think most of it, doesn't it come from algae? Is that correct?
Now, all of the algae form, it comes from the space program. It comes from NASA and Martin Marietta. And you can check this out. It sounds preposterous, but it's true. So they have got a clearance because you can only make that type of DHA genetically using bioengineering. And so it's done in collusion with NASA, and it's in every organic baby food and yogurt that you can find. When you go to a health food store and see DHA, it means you get it from an algae, not a fish oil. It's in all baby formulas, and it's the worst kind. This genetic form, by the way, what's the profit in it? If I grow a carrot, it takes what, 3 months to grow it and have a crop from seed to being able to sell it? Mm-hmm. Well, with the DHA coming from algae, it can be as short as 11-hour turnover. Usually it takes a couple of days, but 11 hours. Think of the profit. Big, huge vats that they grow it in, and you just scoop it out and sell it and put it in a pill. Your pills are much more expensive than the DHA, and yet they charge elevated price for the DHA, the EPA, and the arachidonic acid.
Wow. So with DHA, I've looked at different products over the years. I haven't really been a big, taker of it. I haven't really taken it that much ever. But, they reference, all of them reference, thousands of studies supporting DHA. Are they just not looking at the right things in those studies, or what's going on there?
Well, they're not looking at yellow fat disease. It's a side effect. It works. It does work as an anti-inflammatory. You know what they used to use for inflammation? They used to put you under an X-ray, and they bombarded you with radiation. Guess what? All the inflammation started or stopped for a while. Then it came back. That's the same way. In fact, Emmanuel Revisi, in his book on cancer, his 776-page textbook, goes into detail that essential fatty acids are the same as radiation. Now, he would recommend it for certain therapies, but he knew that it was the same as radiation, being a radiation expert. And anybody that investigates it, and by the way, don't take my word for it. Anyone listening to this show, go on the internet and put in yellow fat disease. If you follow that up, yellow fat disease cats, yellow fat disease dogs, yellow fat disease minks, yellow fat disease horses, yellow fat disease cows, yellow fat disease chickens. Even fish get yellow fat disease from eating other cold water fish. In fact, now the fish are commonly getting it because they feed cold water fish to warm water fish. And a warm water fish down in the Amazon, they have oil like butter. But a salmon, even an Eskimo won't eat a salmon. And the Canadian government basically killed off the Inuits by giving them fishing nets when the Inuits were smart enough not to eat the fish, and they knew they needed the caribou to survive.
Wow.
Farley Mowat, the Never Cry Wolf, People of the Deer. The author goes into that in details. Dirk Pearson goes into details how bad DHA is. Remember him back in 1982? Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw wrote a book. It's all over the place, but the DHA people have got people so scammed and brainwashed, it is amazing. Yes. Again, don't look at DHA. You'll find nothing but good stuff. But if you put in yellow fat disease, that again will lead to pancreatitis, steatitis, stiff lamb disease, lipofuscinosis, on and on the list goes.
Yeah, I'm looking at it up online right now. Steatitis is all over the place with yellow fat disease, especially in cat health. Gosh, it's all over the place, and even with fish too. So you're saying there's an element of omega-3 that's going on, that's coming from the DHA.
That's what it is. Now, they call it, sometimes you'll see it called a vitamin E deficiency. Okay. But saying it's a vitamin E deficiency disease is like saying mercury is an egg white or activated charcoal deficiency. You see what I mean?
Right.
So you don't need, if you don't have omega-3 oils, you don't need vitamin E. Now, fortunately, I have an almond is a mixture of oils, including oleic acid, and it has some of the others in too. But it's very, very rich in vitamin E, so it has its own cure along with it. So I eat almonds and I eat certain nuts, but I keep them to a minimum. I keep them at the right time. And I know that I'm not taking it for the ALA or the omega-3 oils. Even the omega-6s give you problems too. I don't know of any cases where it actually outright gives you yellow fat disease, but studies have been done that it increases cancer and things like that. The more older the oil, the more of a problem, but we age it in our body. We store oil. What is dandruff? That's lipids. That's oils coming out.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So what are your thoughts about like duck fat or beef tallow? Beef tallow it seems like a saturated fat, right?
It used to be, but now it melts because they feed the hogs to fatten them up. They feed them omega-3 fatty oils. So if you used to take beef lard, for instance, and it would be nice and hard. Now it melts much quicker because it's full and loaded with it. And what do they do with chicken eggs? A nice, healthy cholesterol and nice, healthy, saturated fat. They feed them fish oils. And so now we have actually shrinking our brains by eating eggs these days. Fortunately, we get it from a person who raises chickens and doesn't give them any fish oils at all.
That's the best, right? You want to get your eggs from chickens that you know what they're eating. That's the most important thing, I think.
That's right. You don't want to be giving them fish oils and flax oils and all the things that they do to make omega-3 healthy eggs. Yeah. They're actually, the whole thing is the biggest scam since fluoride.
Wow.
And phosphate and the the uranium fluorine scam.
Now, this doctor that I was referencing when we first mentioned fibrosis and bringing down all mammals and yellow fat disease, he was talking about one of the biggest things that he's seen in his practice is the application of enzyme therapy to help break down some of this fibrosis. What are you seeing in your research about how to overcome that?
As long as you produce the enzymes yourself, because you put them in the mouth, the stomach just digests them. So you don't get much enzymes, despite what they were saying. Let's look at William Kelly and Gonzalez. They were giving the enzymes by mouth, claiming they don't break down in the stomach. Well, Dr. Beard, who their original work was based on, actually he gave it by injection and knew that it wasn't even the trypsin. It was the lipase, and particularly the amylopsin, which is not amylase. If you go and buy an enzyme in the store, you're going to get amylase, thinking that it's the same as amylopsin, which comes out of the pancreas. So there's different enzymes. They also used oxgall because he knew that the sulfur in the taurine in that was essential for beating cancer too. So for all the hoopla about how well, I think Dr. Gonzalez claimed 30,000 cancer cures, he didn't do that at all.
Wow, what was his rate, do you think?
Do the math. Think of how many people, suppose you were going to have 30,000 clients, Justin, they came to your office. How many days would you have to work and how many hours? And for each one to be successfully cured of pancreatic cancers, I don't even think there's that many pancreatic cancer cases a year in this country.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. I wonder how many people are, in fact, diagnosed with that per year.
I looked it up one time, and I know it's not enough to satisfy the statistics of Dr. Gonzalez.
So now Dr. Gonzalez was one of his things that he was saying, we had him on our show quite some time ago, but one of the things he was saying was, these enzymes help to dissolve the cell membrane of the cancer. So, and you're saying there is no real cell membrane. So what's going on there, do you think?
That's right. That's the point. They don't. The problem with cancer, see, how they've got a scam now on that is they say it's a genetic disease. Agalase has nothing to do with cancer. We fight and battle and win over cancer about 100 times a day at a genetic level.
Okay.
The problem with cancer is that when it gets past the organelle into the cell and then into the circulation, that's when it metastasizes. So the control of cancer is done by monitoring acid and alkaline at the local area. It takes a Beckman Instruments pH meter to measure the lesion. The lesion is where the breakdown occurs, because if you measure pH in your mouth or your urine, what does that got to do with your lesion where the breakdown from the acid-alkaline happens? Mm-hmm. That's why I've just revised and expanded my book, Acidify or Die, which is a rebuttal to the Alkalize or Die. Mm-hmm. You've probably seen that book on the newsstand.
Yeah.
At the health food stores. The funny thing in that book, if you look at the cover, it shows a verdant forest and a waterfall. That's supposed to be alkaline. And then it shows a dried up desert. That's supposed to be acid. Well, anybody who has any knowledge at all of chemistry or geology knows that a desert is an alkali flat. That's how you dry up the body with an alkali. If you go up in the mountains around the pine trees, you're going to find more acid up there, so much that you can't farm under the pine trees because the acid will not allow your plants to grow unless they tolerate a very acid soil.
So what you're talking about is not just a rebuttal, but also doing something at the site and the location of where these tumors are in people, right?
Yes, it's a balance. You know, I wrote that title as a rebuttal. Of course, alkalize and acidify on demand at time. A healthy person will be most acidic at 4 in the morning and most alkaline at 4 in the afternoon, exactly at bladder and lung times opposed. Lung time is 3 to 5. You're supposed to have the less oxygen and be the most acid at that time. Carbon dioxide makes you acid. And then exactly at 4 in the afternoon, you're supposed to be the more alkaline. Oxygen oxidizes, basically makes you more alkaline, breaks you down. But it gives you energy. We need to break ourselves down to get the energy to work out and whatever we're doing.
Is it true that we can control our acid alkaline pH levels mostly with breath, and that's the most powerful way to do it?
It is. Yes, it is. That's how, again, I've talked about the yogis who were able to put themselves in suspended animation for as long as 40 days on record by the British military.
Wow, using their breath.
Using their breath. Breath control is it. And the key to immortality, or at least longevity, radical longevity, is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide used in the evening can actually get rid of asthma, and even liver cirrhosis can be combated with the carbon dioxide in your, basically a type of buteyko breathing, but not where you force it. If you meditate correctly, your breath is going to slow down. There's just no stopping, and you become more acidic, not more alkaline.
More acidic.
That's why an alkaline diet is much better tolerated by people who meditate.
Oh, well, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Because to balance it out, yeah.
Yeah, if I breathe slowly, I go into a coma, ultimately. If I breathe quickly, I go into tetany. That's why when people do rebirthing with that, they start to, their fingers start to lock up and their feet start to cramp up. Anytime you have a cramp, you're over-alkaline. Every time you can't feel something, it's numb or tingly, you're over-acidic. And the truth is, with cancer grows in an acid environment. They've got that right, and calcium can stop that growth, but it spreads in an alkaline environment. So once you get cancer, you better be careful of calcium and alkalinizing yourself. The Dr. Simoncini's work would work in a growing cancer, but in a spreading cancer, he killed people, and it's in his book. He knew about the problem.
Wow. So it really does matter when you're focusing on being acid and alkaline. It really does.
You need to know when you are and where you are. And there's a hierarchy of levels represented by the 7 chakras in the periodic table of the elements. People don't realize that from hydrogen on down into the radioactive elements actually is a chakra system of our body. No accident that it's 7 levels. No accident that the acid alkaline alternate between the elements, and that's what makes us acid alkaline.
Oh, man, so much interesting information. Adam, unfortunately, we have to go, but I could talk with you for hours. Next time, let's do a show and let's have you on the other end so that we can talk for longer. How about that?
You bet. Let me finish with a final plug.
Yeah.
Go to sunsyncnutrition.com for our subscription site. $99 gets you access for as long as I'm alive or even my progeny is alive. And the other one, the free site, is solartiming.com, where we sell all of our books, and I've got some new ones and mini books and yellow fat disease, timing, you name it. Cognitive shocks is all there.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, I'd highly recommend checking all of this information out, because this information that Adam brings to our show is not just unique and fascinating, but it's information that he spends so much time digging up out of the archives of human history. And like he was talking about before with the DHA, you're going to get sort of one angle on a lot of these things when you go online and read the popular pervasive information out there. But when you get someone's take like Adam, who's done a lot of research back in the archives years and years and hundreds and thousands of years ago, you're going to get a balancing effect. And so I definitely recommend checking out his books. Maybe start out with his books and then move into his membership website. I'd highly recommend checking it out, though. As far as your book, what was the book that you were saying at the beginning of the show that you're just wrapping up right now? What's that one called?
Circadian Quantum Force Alchemy from A to Z. That's the latest one. It's probably going to be for sale in a day or two.
Okay.
You can put your order in. We're waiting on a cover. That's the only thing.
Okay. That's cool. So that's
they're
available.
ebooks. They're all ebooks, and I've got an expanded, updated version of Acidify or Die. I've got a mini book out called Too Much Iodine. A lot of people don't realize that they can take too much iodine and cause more problems than taking too little.
Mm-hmm.
And the first edition of the Solar Timing Digest will be out soon. And I'm just beginning a new book about red light for longevity.
Oh, gosh, that's going to be good. Yeah, because this iodine thing I've been going through recently. I'll share my thoughts on that later on, maybe in a free-for-all show. But yeah, and I've been using red light therapy, so those will be really good books. Those are coming out soon.
Coming out soon.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right, so
Some
all of those
tomorrow.
Coming out tomorrow? Nice. So those are available at solartiming.com?
Oh, yeah, solartiming.com. Check out the site. We have all kinds of things on there, all kinds of features. It's basically a Palisades Park of the mind.
Oh, I love that. Adam, thanks so much for being on, my friend. I'm sorry we have to cut this one short. Next time, let's do it on the outer end. That'd be fun.
Quality, if not quantity.
That's
Always
right.
love talking to you, Justin.
Thanks a lot, Adam. I'll talk to you soon. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. All right, there you go. Episode 545 with Atom Bergstrom. What did you guys think about that? He's always such an interesting guy, isn't he? I just love Atom. He's really, really got some unique takes on things, and he's a bit of a contrarian, I think. You know, he really, but gosh, he does a ton of research, and it's fascinating because I don't know, you know, what he was saying about DHA is interesting and probably true. I just don't know. You know, I haven't done the research, and like he does. I mean, a lot of our guests just spend much of the day researching and trying to find information. But Adam's interesting. What he does is, like I was saying before, is that he goes so deep and he goes so far back into the annals of history and really looks at the stuff from different angles, different perspectives, and fascinating guy. So as far as DHA goes, I don't know. Do your own research. Look at the book Yellow Fat Disease that he's written, and maybe you can get some more sense about what's going on with DHA. I thought it was interesting what we talked about healing fibrosis, because the doctor that we spoke with, Dr. William Wong, talks about fibrosis, and so does David Wolf. He talks about basically calcification, which is the same thing essentially as fibrosis. It takes down all mammals and even dinosaurs and turtles and these things that live a long time eventually succumb to fibrosis. And apparently what Dr. Wong was saying in terms of fibrosis was that if you were to take out, like, let's say the lungs or the liver of a person, maybe like a baby who died or something at 1 or 2 years old, and you compare that to the liver of like a 90-year-old, I mean, you're going to be able to the liver of the baby is going to be so soft and so supple and so pliable and so nutrient dense, and it's going to be so supple. But the liver of the 90-year-old is going to be hard, and it's going to be very difficult to cut in half, and it's going to be very, very just hard for the liver to work. It's going to be very dense. And so what eventually happens is that this scar tissue, this fibrosis, this internal inflammation really starts shrinking our internal organs, and because of that, what happens is that these organs can no longer function correctly, and when they can't function correctly, you start to get a lot of these downstream, nagging injuries or diseases or things like that, because your liver is just not processing correctly. And so eventually, that's what dying of old age is really just fibrosis and calcification. So interesting that, he said, what did he say? He said that you can't have fibrosis without omega-3? Is that what he said? Can't remember. And omega-3 is high in DHA. Golly, so much that I may have to listen to that show again. He's just got so much information. He's been on a ton of our shows, Atom Bergstrom. So if you like the things that he talked about, he's been on, like, the last show we did was episode 530. He was on 520, 512, 484, 471, 450. So he's been on a ton of our shows, all the way back to show number 78, a couple years ago probably. So that was cool. And check out his website, solartiming.com. And some of our upcoming shows, if you guys don't know, we do shows twice a week. And we've got Dr. Joan Vernikos coming up right after this. She wrote a book called Sitting Kills, Moving Heals. And we talk all about her work. She used to work with NASA, and bones and osteoporosis and sitting and standing, and how important it is to make sure to not sit or stand too much. And we talked a lot about the physiological implications of what that is. So that's going to be a really, really interesting show. And we got Dr. Dan Engel coming up. He is the naturopathic doctor that my wife Kate is currently seeing. But he's going to come in studio, I think, and we're going to be talking about concussions. So if you know anybody in your life that has head trauma, injuries, these types of things, we'll be talking about that. I think that's what we're talking about. I think so. And then we're going to have Patrick Durkin on the show. We're going to be talking about re-energizing your water, so adding structure to your water and adding some intent to your water, getting all into the woo-woo spiritual stuff. So I'm sure that would be an interesting show. Then we have Rhea Carlson coming on, and we're going to be talking with her about something super interesting called bee venom therapy. Now, this is a way of using bee stings to incite inflammation to particular areas of the body. So let's say you had, some inflammation in your brain, like a concussion, for example. You could put, DMSO with some anti-inflammatory, rub it on your head, and then have bee stings. And that way, internally, your body knows to send all the white blood cells, all of the immune factors, all of the oxygen and the circulation, the red blood cells, all up to your brain to start doing the healing. And then on top of it, you're putting DMSO on top of the bee sting. So it's a really interesting way of using controlled inflammation. That's a lot like what, if you guys have had prolotherapy, where they inject, I've had prolotherapy in my knee, where they inject your knee with ozone. And sometimes they use HGH too to stimulate repair of the ligaments. And so basically what it does is it agitates the knee, and so it allows your body to send all the white blood cells and the healing factors to your knee in order to heal. And so that's pretty similar to what bee venom therapy does. So we're going to have Rhea Carlson on and sort of, give us an understanding of what that's all about, because this whole health thing is a moving target. And we got to stay on top and learn all about the new stuff that's coming out, and old stuff too that people have been using for centuries. So that'll be an interesting show. I think Rhea Carlson will be on. So lots of cool stuff on our show. So make sure to subscribe to our show. There's areas on the website all over where you can put your name and email address in, and we'll send you updates to all of our shows. So I want to make sure you guys don't miss anything that might be of interest to you, because obviously not all the shows are going to be interesting and things that you want to listen to, because I listen to podcasts too. So I don't listen to everything from everybody unless I'm really into their stuff. So we've got a wide variety of guests. So hopefully one of them tickles your fancy, as they say. And I hope you guys enjoyed this show with Atom Bergstrom. Really cool guy. I just want to let you guys know too that we are going to be launching a membership site very, very soon. And we're working on that behind the scenes. And this is going to be a really cool place. It's something that I've wanted myself for years and years. So I'm kind of doing it selfishly. I'm building it for myself because it's what I want. Because I want to be able to get access to information that is going to be helpful to me. I want to be able to implement ideas and strategies very simply and easily that are very practical for how to use high-level techniques and high-level protocols and high-level tips and strategies for taking care of my organs. So we're going to be covering all of the organs of the body. So brain, that goes brain, colon, lungs, thyroid, gallbladder, all of that. So we'll be doing in-depth courses on how to take those organs to new levels. And we're also going to be covering a wide variety every month of different health challenges, like say someone has arthritis or cancer or heart disease, cholesterol. We're going to be covering those topics as well. So not only are we going to cover all the different organ systems of the body, but also different health challenges people go through, and that way they can find everything specific to them. And then we're also going to be doing Q&As too with different doctors answering your health questions that will all be alphabetized, so you'll be able to get access to multiple doctors talking about, say, like, let's say your kid has asthma or you have asthma. So we'll get some different perspectives, some short little 3, 4, 5 minute clips on what to do for that. So, and this is going to be stuff that you're not going to find like on WebMD, or you're not going to find it. It's not going to be conventional stuff. And we're going to be talking about like nebulizing, magnesium and, all kinds of high level stuff. So this is going to be a really great place. So if you are a person who, say, wants to live to your 180 or 200 years old and wants to really be a superhero, this is going to be the place for you. And it's going to be filled with other people, all of our listeners that are going to be on the same path. And it's really important, I think, to share in that with each other. And if you're someone who is trying to get your health back up to baseline, perhaps has a health challenge currently going on, you're going to want to join this too, because you're going to get answers. Every month there's going to be more and more and more answers from research and doctors, and this is going to be an awesome place. So if you guys are interested in taking your health to new levels and joining the membership academy, there'll be a link to it on this show page, which is extremehealthradio.com/545. So look forward to that in the coming months. And thank you guys for your support on Amazon. Your constant support when you go through our link on Amazon to purchase is amazing, so we really appreciate that. That just helps us so much, you know? It really does. I'm so grateful for those of you that remember. It's really challenging to remember, but thank you guys for remembering to go through our Amazon link. And then also, thank you guys for joining or for visiting our store and checking out the saunas and the rebounders and the Vitamix blenders and the BlendTech blenders and all the different IMRS, PEMF devices, the ozone therapy machines we have on our store. So thanks for perusing our store every now and then and going through our link and making purchases because that helps keep the show free. And not only that, it helps us to pay all of our bills. We have a lot of bills here to keep the show running, so we appreciate your support there. And also, lastly, I want to thank you guys that have supported us on PayPal and Patreon. A lot of people are just donating $2, $3, $4, $5 a month, sometimes even more too, and we appreciate that. So thank you guys for that. If you do that, all you have to do is just set it up once, and it goes out once a month, every month, whether you use PayPal or Patreon. So we appreciate that a lot. We use that money to buy our dog food for our dogs and to pay all of our bills, our office rent, all of that stuff to do and produce all of these shows for you. So we appreciate that. All right, guys, enough about that. I hope you guys are having a great, great day. Please pass the show on to your friends if you know anyone who is interested in fibrosis, DHA, yellow fat disease, cholesterol, eating on time, iodine, and all the stuff that we talked about. So pass the show on to your friends. We greatly appreciate that, and so does Adam, too. So make sure to check out his website, solartiming.com. That's correct, solartiming.com. And again, to check out extremehealthradio.com/545 to get access to all of the show notes for today's show, as well as the sponsors and all that good stuff. Episode 545. All right, guys, we love you. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only.